family. Today we are kicking off our 4th year of reading together. We started this little book club 3 years ago and we are unveiling the 2018 Paper and Glam reading list. And I am wearing my reading sweatshirt, my favorite sweatshirt, my Great Gatsby sweatshirt. If you would like one, I'll see if I can find it below. And we are going to first talk about, what is the Paper and Glam book club? How do I join? All of the logistics and framework from how are the books selected to, how does it work? And then we're going to go into each read for 2018. So let's jump into our framework. So the heart behind the Paper and Glam book club is to read together as a community. Everything is better when it's experienced together, right? When we're sharing an experience. That is very much the heart behind Paper and Glam as a whole. That's why, we live by our seasonal living lists, and the 2018 versions actually just went live in the shop. So those are up for you to order. They're here and ready to ship. But what the heart behind those are, and just like reading along together, is really to have that shared experience. And like Christmas is a prime example, right? We're just going into the holiday season and we're all seeing lights pop up in our neighborhood, and we're planning our holiday meals and doing all of those things that both separately, of course, but that's what's happening in our world. And that is similar to how we treat Paper and Glam as a community. We kind of like to read together and plan together and live seasonally together. So while we read together, my goal is to really read widely and broadly. So by that I mean all different genres. If I was picking these books just for me, it would be 12 nonfiction books. Those of you know me know that's true. I love nonfiction. That is my wheelhouse. But I specifically set up the list so that there are 3 to 4 classics, so quarterly classics. There are at least one work of children's literature, and then there is at least one young adult read, and then we have 3 to 4 nonfiction, and then 3 to 4 fiction. So with those parameters, I set up the book list and make sure that we have titles that fit into each of those categories. So that way, we're really discovering our next great read. We're discovering genres, or, challenging ourselves to read genres that we may not typically pick up or be our first choice. And that really is just to give ourselves that mental workout, right? It's kind of like going to the gym for your mind, and also it's nice to kind of be up for a challenge here and there, especially if you're a voracious reader like I am and you could just plow through a nonfiction book once a week and be perfectly content. It's nice to read outside of our comfort zone. And also we want to read deeply together. So I know every single time we sit down for book club, which is the last Thursday of the month, live on YouTube, I am always so inspired when we finish, because even if I love the book, there's things I didn't notice that one of the book chatters points out to me, or maybe I didn't really like the book, but after we've talked about it as a group, I'm like, I actually did enjoy this book more than I thought, or some of the things that were in this book completely went over my head, and maybe if I had caught on to that, I would have been able to enjoy it a little more. So that is the heart behind it. You will notice as we go through these lists, these are not going to be like the latest and greatest releases in the publishing world, and that is very much by design. Usually the books are a year or two old-ish, and that's so that they are accessible for everyone, right? I want all of the titles to be really readily available at your local public libraries. When books first come out, they can be hard to get at libraries, and I want to make sure that, these are really accessible titles for everyone. My goal is that if you have an internet connection and you have a library card, you have everything you need to read along with us. So that is that. And I think without further ado, let's jump into the titles. It's our tradition to kind of kick off a book that's kind of like a New Year nonfiction inspirational book, and 2018 is no exception. We are starting off the year with When Breath Becomes Air by Paul I'm going to butcher this name, my apologies, Kalanithi. And if you're not familiar with Paul's story, it's just incredibly compelling and also tragic. So he was just completing 10 years of study to become a neurosurgeon at Stanford when he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He was also pregnant with his first child, so his wife was soon to give birth to their baby, their first child, and he had less than a year to live when he was diagnosed. And so this book is very much his final thoughts. And so we have in this book a collection of kind of Paul exploring these questions that like we all have about life, but really, you know, he has an incredibly interesting perspective, because not only is he a neurosurgeon, you know, he's living his final days, and you know, in the wake of May, he might not, you know, meet his son, who is coming. I believe he had a son, and he did pass in 2015, and this book was published posthumously. So yeah, I hope that, you know, it's not too dark for you guys. I don't think it's going to be. It's been on my to-read list since it debuted. I think it was January of 2016, I believe, and it was also a book of the month selection. So real quickly, if you do want to kind of stay abreast of the like latest and greatest releases, the things that the publishing world are kind of buzzing around, the Book of the Month Club is a great way to get kind of a pulse on that. And Only Love Can Break Your Heart is a thriller, and we always read some really fast-paced thriller fiction books in the spring. It's kind of our rainy day read selection, and the first one is Only Love Can Break Your Heart, of course. And it is categorized as, well, I'll quote NPR because they said it best. They said if this book was an Instagram filter, it would be nostalgic. Is that not like the greatest review you've ever heard? I hope that was Marine Corrigan, because I love her. Anyway, so this book, it's a coming of age book. It's written by a kid who's kind of reliving his adolescence and kind of some of the rough things that we all go through growing up, and it's just kind of like that walk down memory lane, but also there's a mystery weaved in, and it's like it has like a Southern Gothic backdrop, and this book is a really hard book to describe. It kind of has a lot of things going. I think it's going to be different than anything that you and I maybe have read before. I mean, maybe you're much better read than I am, and that's not true. If you're Erica Covey, who's one of our book chatters who reads 300 books a year plus. But you know, this book has almost a 5-star rating on Amazon. It really has been universally well reviewed, so I'm excited to read it. And yeah, it's different. I hope I did it some justice. It's definitely out of my wheelhouse, if you couldn't tell. And you know, I think that it's going to be fun for Valentine's Day to kind of examine love's different forms. March. So we are continuing our spring of thrillers with March's read Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. So you guys may remember Paula Hawkins' debut novel was The Girl on the Train, and we read that together in March of 2016, and it was like a smash hit. So many of our readers loved it, and you know, of course, it quickly became into a movie. It quickly was adapted into a film that just did incredibly well, and this is Paula Hawkins' follow-up. So it has some glowing reviews. I've heard from some readers that it might be a little bit slow in the beginning, but that it's ultimately, like, the payoff is totally worth it. So I offer that quick disclaimer. This might be a challenge for us. If you're like me, that doesn't do super well with fiction, we might kind of have to power through like the first 100 pages or so, but it is supposed to be really good, and I'm excited to read Paula Hawkins' follow-up. And you know, those authors that have just been really well reviewed by our community, I always want to include on our list, because of course in my ultimate world, all 12 books are books that we all love, right? Which is next to impossible, which is impossible. But you know, those books that we've all loved by authors that, you know, we all love, of course, are kind of always get the top priority when I'm writing our reading list for the year. And yeah, this was a book of the month pick as well. And we'll jump into that in March. All right, April. I am so excited about April's read. Like, drum roll, please. In April, Jenny Han is back with Always and Forever Laura Jean. So if you are new to Jenny Han, we read her together in April of 2016, and we read her first book, which was To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And so I am not a huge young adult reader. I want to be, like, I want to love all books. Like, I love books, but definitely, like, have, you know, nonfiction is my wheelhouse. And so I kind of went into To All the Boys I Loved Before with low expectations. And I would say it's in my, like, top 10 books as far as books I enjoy reading. It just took me right back to high school. It reminded me what it was like to be young again in, like, the best possible way. And I know a lot of us felt that way, and we powered through the sequel, which was P.S. I Still Love You. Oh my gosh, it was just as good, if not better, which like never happens, right? And Jenny Han is back with the third installment, and I believe the final installment of Laura Jean's story with Always and Forever Laura Jean. So I'm so excited. I rarely reread books, to a fault probably, and I'm planning to reread To All the Boys I Loved Before and P.S. I Still Love You, and then sink into this so I can like be like right where we left off, because oh, it was just so good and I enjoyed it so much. And I mean, I think it was like 5 stars all around. So excited about this. And I actually saw that the publisher came out with a box set too. So if you're new to Jenny Han and you don't have like the previous 2, I did see there was a box set for 30 bucks, which is I think it was even like 25. It was a pretty good deal for a box set, which those can be kind of pricey. Okay, May. May is a quarterly classic. It is also our children's pick for the year. And this is gonna scare you a little bit because my particular copy is a big one. And it is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, as well as Through the Looking Glass. And then it has an other classic works. So don't worry, this is not all Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, but that is what we were reading for May. And oh my gosh, I am so coveting the Penguin Classics version of this. I got this book years ago from Barnes & Noble in like the bargain buys for $5, and it's been sitting on my shelf. Of course, I love that it was pink. I love the cover art, but the Penguin Classics with the flamingos on it, oh my gosh, looks so stinking cute. And I'll link it below. I've linked all these versions below. I always get the question like, where did you get that version? And I try really hard to link them below. This was the older one, so I don't have it to link, but I am like holding back purchasing the Penguin cloth bound because the flamingos are just so cute and it's pink and white. So anywho, that is our May read. I think we're all pretty familiar with Alice in Wonderland. I have never read it, but I am so excited to kind of dive down the rabbit hole and kind of live in the whimsy, dark world of Wonderland. All right, June. In June, we are reading Cupcake Brown's A Piece of Cake. And I'm kind of putting this one in our classics. It is a memoir, and it was published in 2006, I believe. So it's by no means a classic per se, but it's kind of going to fit that category of quarterly classics for us. So I know that's 2 back to back, but I really think you will enjoy this book. This is one of those books that's really hard to intro. It got on the list because Tabitha, who is one of our longtime book chatters, has said that this is one of her all-time favorite books, and because of that I'd wanted to read it for a long time. Of course, I'm super intrigued by the title, you know, A Piece of Cake, and written by Cupcake Brown. But Cupcake basically went through every horror that you and I could imagine by the age of 20, and then that's when the book kicks off and things get really interesting. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely not a PG book. This is definitely a rated R book. If you're thinking of reading along with us, and maybe like you're reading along with like your daughter or like a younger sibling, just a heads up, this definitely has some adult content, but Tabitha has amazing taste in books, and she's also just like one of my favorite humans. So if she loved it, I know we're all gonna love it. Okay, July, we are reading Love Lives Here. So Love Lives Here is written by Maria Goff, who is the wife of Bob Goff. And Bob Goff is, well, first off, we both went to USD. Can I get a thumbs up for Torero Town, or a comment if there's any fellow Toreros in my midst? So he went to my alma mater, which is pretty cool. And he lives in San Diego still, which is also pretty cool. And he is just like the coolest person. His book, Love Does, is one of my all-time favorites. It's definitely in my canon of top 10. It's one of those books I could read once a month because it really just reminds me how to live and how I want to live and who I want to be in the most fun and whimsical way possible. And he approaches life and articulates life similar to kind of actually my vision for Paper and Glam, just to really like celebrate every day and really like sink into life and not kind of live on the surface of like errands and to-do lists and all that stuff we kind of all have to get done because life has tasks, right? So his book, I don't even know what to say. It's a hard intro because it's just so good. It's so, like, I don't even have anything to compare it to. It's just one of the best books I've ever read. So needless to say, when Maria Goff published her book, one of my best friends, Hey Hillary, said, oh my gosh, Maria Goff's book came out, you got to put it on the list. So of course it was a shoo-in, and I'm so excited to read Love Lives Here, finding what you need in a world telling you what you want. So that's July. Should be a good pool read. In In August, we are reading the 2016 Book of the Month, Book of the Year. So this book is All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. And when this book came out, I got emails probably once a week and DMs and all this that I had to read this book and I had to put it on the list. And it won so many awards. I think it was the runner-up for 2016 for a Goodreads Fiction Award. You know, everybody was buzzing about this book. I still haven't read it. I'm sure some of you have, but I hope you're willing to revisit it with us. It's been titled A Modern Day Beauty and the Beast. So the backdrop is a meth lab. So of course it's going to be, you know, pretty dark, but Beauty and the Beast was a little dark if you think about it. So it's going to be dark, disclaimer there. It's going to be probably rated R. I haven't read it, but I would assume given the backdrop. And yeah, it's just a book that everyone's buzzing about, and I gotta see what it's about. So I hope we'll do that together. In September, I am introducing you to one of my favorite authors, or I hope I get to introduce you to her. You might already know about her, and that is Jen Lancaster. So in September, we're going to be supporting her self-published debut, which is, well, this is not her debut, it's her self-publishing debut, which is Stories I Tell in Bars. So a little background on Jen. She came up in my Amazon recommended reads list in 2007, and the title of the book was Such a Pretty Fat. I bought it immediately. I had just graduated college, and it was about 2008, I guess. I had just graduated college, and I was finally excited to start reading for pleasure because I really didn't have any time to do that between working full time and, of course, going to school full time. There was no reading time, right? So I was so excited to have some time back to read, and I remember I ordered several books, and that was one of them. Oh my gosh, it is laugh out loud funny. And I'm not someone that necessarily thinks that books are super funny or watches comedy or anything, but Jen Lancaster is hilarious. Every time I read one of her books, I'm cackling in the bathtub awkwardly, thinking that my neighbors think I'm crazy. I mean, she is hilarious. So I can't recommend her books, Bitter is the New Black, Bright Lights, Big Ass, and Such a Pretty Fat more. Those are so good. Those are kind of her canon. I'm really excited to read The Tao of Martha. I've never read that one. All of the rest of her nonfiction books I've read. She did start doing fiction a couple years back. I have a few of those titles, but I haven't read them. But this is kind of her return to her old, where it all began, is she's returning with Stories I Tell in Bars. And what she said on her Instagram, Sarah, one of our book chatters, shared a video with me on Instagram that is her talking about, why she went the self-publishing route. And she said, she was hearing from her publisher that they wanted her to be the new face of feminine, the future face of feminism. And she was like, I don't know if that's exactly who I am, that image that they want to put her in. She's like, I wear pearls, and I live in this awesome house in the Midwest, and I am very a traditional housewife in some ways. So she's like, I don't know if that's really my bag. And so they wanted to publish kind of different works than what she was wanting to publish, and all of her fans, like me, were like, bring back the fun, bring back the comedy, bring back, she just kind of paints modern day life as a woman with this comedy of errors, hilarious paintbrush, and you just come away just laughing and crying and oh, life, and it's just fun. Her books are just fun. That's the best way I know to put it. And I'm so excited to read Stories I Tell in Bars, as well as kind of relive her classics. October is our Glamween read. It's also another classic, so it's our third classic, and it is Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. So I've never read this book. I've wanted to read it for a long time, since watching Anne Rice talk about when she was writing this book. She wrote it from perspective of asking a lot of the questions about evil and about things that we all see in life, especially in our current cultural landscape, right? We all have a lot of evil, with these mass shootings and all that stuff. And so this was Anne Rice's kind of her working out in a fictional setting those questions with God, why is there so much evil, and written of course from the perspective of a vampire who is an evil being. And I've always wanted to read it because I've heard that it's not super dark, despite the setting. Her novels are quintessentially gothic. Anne Rice is the original vampire writer. It is the first one, and now we have like Twilight and of course Fallen and Vampire Chronicles and all this stuff. So she is actually currently in production of her Vampire Chronicles book. So this is the first of a 12-book series that has been published over, gosh, 20 years or so. And you know, they're planning to serialize all, I think, 11 of the 12 books. So it's kind of a perfect time to revisit Anne Rice's work if you haven't. I've read some of her books before. None of them are any of the Vampire Chronicles ones. I read The Feast of All Saints, which I really loved, and then I tried to read The Witching Hour, but honest to God, it was so scary I had to put it down because I am not someone who typically likes to read things that are too dark. Like, I loved Twilight, I loved like the Discovery of Witches series that we read together, loved those, but some of Anne's work is too dark for me. I've heard from Sarah and Hayden that I'll be okay with this, so if you're kind of in that boat with me, I think we'll be okay from like a darkness, bad dreams perspective. And isn't this like cover so Glamoween? I could not find this exact edition. I had to hunt this one down. I think I got it on AB eBooks, but yeah, I buy a lot of my books used just because you can get them for $5, and you know, I gotta have a well-stocked library. One of my favorite things in life is to walk in this room and be like, what should I read next? Oh, like any good reader, I have a fear of running out of new things to read. So anyway, on to November. So November, we are reading our 4th quarterly classic, and it is, again, a book that's been on so many of our to-read lists, I know, and it is A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. So I have 2 versions of this book. I have a first edition. I stumbled across the first edition at Powell's. I got it for a bargain price. I think I got it for $20. This is like my special edition. And I can tell you right now, there's a million quotes that you're gonna wanna highlight. This book is so heavy with just like incredible passages, right? Like, Hemingway's a literary god. You're gonna want to like tattoo some of these sentences on your body. I don't have any tattoos, but you guys know what I mean. So I bought a paperback copy that I could really like toss in my purse and like highlight and be able to, you know, save and like revisit and kind of like beat up a little bit, you know. So if you're not familiar with A Movable Feast, so A Movable Feast is kind of the story of Hemingway's adventures running around Paris with his starving artist friends that included like F. Scott Fitzgerald of Great Gatsby fame. And it's, you know, it's kind of like his coming of age 20s story. And he left all of this memoir in a trunk at the Ritz that he somehow got back like 50 years later. And this was, he you know, kind of redacted it, so to speak, and published it right before he passed. So it's one of his last books that he published. And Shauna Nyquist, who's one of my favorite authors, and I forced her work on you guys like every other year. She said this is one of her all-time favorite books, and I can see why. Like, I've never read it, but I've seen a lot of the quotes, and yeah, I'm just so excited to read A Movable Feast. Finally, you know, I gotta cross that one off because it's like been sitting on my shelf. The first edition's been sitting on my shelf for like 3 years, and I've never read it. That's like book sacrilege, right? On to December. Just like Glamoween, we always read a Glam Christmas pick. It's always something festive, and this book was recommended by Katrina, one of our original book chatters who's still with us, and it is John Grisham's Skipping Christmas. So if you guys have ever seen Christmas with the Cranks, starring Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis, that is the film adaptation of Skipping Christmas. So this is going to be just like a really fun, I just grabbed a lightweight paperback copy because chances are I'll be traveling during Christmas. It's just fun, easy, you know, things are busy enough with the holidays. So we always just pick something, like it's short, like look how big the text is. You know, this is one of those you could probably sit down and read in like an hour and a half. And I'm not the quickest of readers. So that I like linger on language too much, so I'm actually a slower reader, and I'm sure that I'll be able to tackle this in the Christmas season, and so will you. So that is our 12, I almost said 12 days of Christmas. Those are our 12 2018 reads, and I just could not be more excited for another year of reading together. I know that so many of you had said, I'm joining this year, this was my New Year's resolution, and I just love that to help us read along and stay accountable in the new year. We have our our dashboard here, which you can, you know, of course, put in your planner. You can punch it for a 6-screen planner. You can paste it into your 7x9 spiral planner. You could punch it for your 7x9 spiral planner. You could use it as a bookmark. You could put it on your fridge. You could frame it and put it up in your office. But this is our list of reads. And then also, of course, we have our matching stickers. So these come together in a kit. They are here in shipping now. So definitely stop by this shop and grab those. So this is just the dashboard. And then this is our sticker kit. So I like to use these stickers to mark when our book club sessions are. And of course they are live the last Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, we chat on each book together live. We have 8 live book chatters discussing the book, and then also simultaneously we have a live chat going, and the book chatters get on the chat and we're kind of all talking at the same time about our experience of reading the book, answering our discussion questions, and it really is just like your quintessential book club, except we're all online. Every year I am asked, how do I become a book chatter? And how it works is when we have spaces open on our book chatting lineup, we have 8 book chatters total, counting me, and when someone hangs up their book chatting jersey, I issue an open call. All of our chatters have said they will be back, so, you know, that's been true for the last couple years, so we haven't had a space open, but when, you know, when somebody's schedule changes or they feel like, you know, they have other priorities in this season, I will definitely let you know on our live chats and kind of issue an open call. So that is how you become a live chatter. I wish I could have all of you guys on live, but Google has 10-person max, and also like any more than 8 is it's a little bit too much for all of us to answer like all of the questions or most of the questions. So that's how it's set up for live chatting. How do you join the book club? You know, really logistically, like if you're reading along with us, you've joined, and I hope that you'll be able to join our live chats the last Thursday of the month, of course, with the exception of Christmas, when we're going to go on December 20th, because otherwise the chat falls the day after Christmas or really soon thereafter, so it's not an ideal time. So it's always the last Thursday of the month. Again, I get asked that a lot, so sorry if I said it like 3 or 4 times. It's as simple as just logging onto YouTube and clicking the link. I also put the link up on Instagram, I put it up on Facebook, I put it up on Goodreads, so wherever you are, the Paper and Glam Book Club is too. We have a Paper and Glam Book Club Instagram, like I said, we have a Facebook group where we talk about, you know, what we're reading. We kind of just talk about reading in general, give each other recommendations, reviews, all that stuff. Same with Goodreads. And then new this year, we have a Paper and Glam Book Club channel. So we are going to be transitioning the book club onto its own channel, and we're keeping everything else Paper and Glam in its current location. But we're going to put the live streams up on their own channel, just because those are a little bit different than the rest of the Paper and Glam videos, and just to kind of give a book club its own home. So I'm going to link the Paper and Glam YouTube channel down below. We're not going to switch over to the new year, so till 2018. So until then, you know, everything's going to go live on the Paper and Glam YouTube channel, business as usual, just so, you know, we can all kind of get in the habit of going to a new location. I'm going to link it directly, so like as long as you have Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, you know, you're going to have the link right there. But if you're not a social media person, and I personally just have accounts to keep up with all of you guys, because that's part of the most of the fun of all of this. Well, I love doing videos, but you know, I love learning from each of you and kind of this like life shared experience we've got going on. So before Paper Glam, I didn't have book club. I think I had Instagram. I didn't have Facebook. I think I had it, but like I never used it. Same with like all social media, and I've kind of grown to love it from interacting with you guys. So, you know, I'm not like scrolling through looking at like what people from high school are doing either, but you know, just a thought, if maybe you don't have it, it is a fun way to engage with the community. And if you're like me, I don't have like avid reader friends in real life. I don't have, you know, planning friends in real life. So it's cool to have all of you guys that share so many of my interests and like-minded women. So I think that is a wrap. Oh, real quick, also, of course, everything I mentioned is linked below. There's a blog post walkthrough with everything I said for the most part linked below. All the titles are linked below and also in the blog post. And then some kind of new year releases that just hit the shop are the God and Glam reading plan is ready to ship, so that's here, and I just haven't sealed it yet. And then the 2018 seasonal living lists are also here. So if I have been a little bit absent online, it's just because I am glamming so hard getting ready for what is going to be our most beautiful and seasonal year yet together. I am so excited to show you the 2018 seasonal living list and do like a Paper and Glam 101 video like we did last year for those of you that are just getting connected. And yeah, there's just lots to come. So much. So stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video and you're excited to read along, please subscribe to Paper and Glam, and then also the Paper and Glam book club channel. We're gonna need both for the new year. So that is that. I would love to know what book or books you're most excited about reading in 2018. I love to know your feedback on the list. I work really hard on it, and you know, I start consulting the book chatters like literally the day the 2018 book list goes to print. Like I'm already started on like the next year. So I, you know, add and remove all year round just because I want it to be just like the most comprehensive, well-rounded reading list ever. I am very type awesome, and you know, all things Paper and Glam, I really just want it to be worth your time and worth the investment that you spend just like sitting right now hanging out with me, and whether that's reading, whether that's planning, whatever it is. So I hope that I've hit the mark, and I hope that you're considering reading along with us in 2018. So I will see you guys again soon, and have a fabulous Sunday.